We're going to focus on regulating that blood sugar so that you feel energetic, you don't feel sluggish, you're not feeling tired, you're not feeling grumpy and hangry and hating everyone around you, because we are stabilizing that blood sugar even though progesterone is trying to sabotage us in that regard. Do we need to be cycle syncing our workouts? Do we need to be tracking where we're at in our cycle so that we can change up what we're eating in a day? If you are new to cycle syncing, or if you are wondering if this is for you, let's dive into that today. I want to first talk about what your cycle looks like. So in our cycles, we have a few different phases. For the purpose of cycle syncing, we have 4 different phases. But typically, hormonally, we have 2 separate phases. We've got our follicular phase and we've got our luteal phase. In our follicular phase, this is when our uterus and our body is preparing to ovulate. Estrogen starts to rise and then it dips, and this triggers FSH and LH to prepare and mature and release our follicles or our egg for ovulation. Once ovulation has occurred, all of our hormones dip a little bit, but then progesterone starts to rise, and this is our dominant hormone in our luteal phase. So these are the 2 main hormonal phases of our cycles. Within that, we've got 4 different phases that you want to know for cycle syncing. So the first phase is going to be your menstrual phase. This is when you're bleeding, right? This is the days that you are having a period. During this time, you have lower levels of estrogen and low levels of progesterone. This is the lowest your hormones are going to be, is during your menstruation phase. We get some nutrient loss. We have a little bit of inflammation to help with that shedding of our uterine lining. But typically, everything's pretty low. Nothing is really happening here. A lot of people will say that during this time, you should be resting, you should be taking it easy, you shouldn't be working out, you should be really eating and focusing on nutrient-dense foods. You can do that. My thing when I work with women is that what is actually happening with your day-to-day, right? Because if you're someone who falls off the wagon very easily and struggles to get back on, not working out for 5 to 7 days or however long your period is really going to derail you. So what I like to say is do what you are able to handle. If your period kind of makes you feel a little bit slower, a little bit sluggish, don't be doing your hardest workout on those days. Do something like walking, do something like yoga, do something like Pilates, do something like a light bike ride, something small that keeps your body moving in motion. And that's also going to help with period pain. Being physically active, getting your movement in on a regular basis, specifically aerobic activity, can be really helpful for period pain. If you can handle it, I want you to continue moving. Just make it light. Don't overexert yourself. A really light jog, a walk, something to keep your body in motion. That's what we're going to do in our menstrual phase. Nutritionally, we're going to focus on hydration. We are bleeding a lot. We want to focus on iron-rich foods, which if you are focusing on eating protein, eating whole food protein sources every day throughout any part of your cycle, you're going to be hitting that goal of getting in the iron. So that's what I want you to focus on a regular basis anyway. And if you're already doing that, you're going to be focusing on this phase of your cycle, which is the menstruation phase, when your iron is a little bit lower. You're eating whole food protein sources, that's helping your iron. You're going to want to focus on anti-inflammatory foods during this time as well. Because again, there's a little bit of inflammation going on from those prostaglandins to help shed that uterine lining during that. So what we're going to focus on are things like dark berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Elderberries are also really great for this. Anything that's dark, anything that's a berry, lots of antioxidants, lots of flavonoids there. And remember, bonus points if you freeze and cook them first. Then we're going to focus on things that have lots of vitamin C. We're going to focus on our greens. We're going to focus on any antioxidant rich foods. Whatever you want that to be, that's what I want you to eat. And of course, protein and fiber. As always, that's our baseline. That's always our focus. I'm just reminding you so you don't forget about it. Okay, so that's our menstrual phase. Focus on whatever light movement you can do. Focus on the protein, focus on the fiber, adding in a little bit more antioxidant-rich foods, and then getting your hydration in. If you're doing seed cycling during this time, when you start your period, we're going to start adding in our follicular phase seeds. That's going to be pumpkin seeds and flax seeds because these are phytoestrogenic and also help with liver metabolism of all of our hormones. Next, we've got our follicular phase. So in our follicular phase, estrogen is rising. This is the phase where estrogen is the dominant hormone, follicular phase. Estrogen starts rising and progesterone's still low. We haven't ovulated yet. There is really not much progesterone at all being made, but we start to see FSH and LH peaking and dropping because this is, again, what's triggering ovulation as we kind of near that ovulatory phase. And because estrogen is highest during our follicular phase, your insulin sensitivity is at its best. So if you are someone who really loves their carbs, but you feel really awful in your luteal phase or the week or two before your period and you just feel really grumpy and moody and hangry, this is the phase where you can get away with eating more carbs because your insulin is more sensitive. Whereas in the luteal phase, which we're going to get to in a minute, your blood sugar is not as stable. So you're going to notice those crashes and cravings a little bit more because of progesterone. But in our follicular phase, estrogen is the dominant hormone. We can get away with eating a little bit more carb-heavy meals. That's not to say don't focus on protein and fiber. You can just get away with eating a little bit more carbs here. And because we have a lot more estrogen during this time, we have more energy. We feel really good. You can get away with the harder workouts. You might even notice that during this time, which follicular phase for the purposes of cycle syncing is after your period has ended before you've ovulated. So for some people, that might be 7 days. For some people, that might be 10 days. It just depends on how long your period is. But this time is when estrogen is starting to rise and you're feeling good. So you might even notice like, I want to lift heavy. I want to do a hard workout. I want to push myself, and I can because of where our hormones are at during this phase. And so because you might be a little bit more physically active, because you might be doing a little bit more, make sure you're getting in all of the protein that you can, right? At least 30 grams per meal if possible. And then fiber with each of your meals, 1 to 2 cups of fruits or veggies, beans, legumes, whatever you want to add, whole grains. Again, seed cycling wise, if you are doing seed cycling, you're still in your follicular phase. We're going to continue on with pumpkin seeds and flax seeds. Now we are entering our ovulatory phase. This is where estrogen has peaked and dropped. So once we have ovulated or we are ovulating, estrogen is already going down. And for a lot of people who have PMS symptoms around this time, you might notice that things peak around ovulation, like headaches and migraines. If you deal with period flu or body aches or congestion, hives, histamine stuff, you might notice that this peaks and drops around ovulation. Those symptoms peak and drop around ovulation with your estrogen peaking and dropping. This is also when progesterone is starting to rise. That's what's changing with our hormones. FSH has gone down, LH has gone down. Testosterone will briefly rise around ovulation and then go away. Not go away, but, kind of back to baseline. If you're noticing a lot of those PMS symptoms during this time, during ovulation and before you start your period, it's likely because your estrogen levels are not getting cleared from your body as well as we'd like it to. Because remember, they peak, they help to trigger ovulation, and then they drop. And if your body or your liver or your gut are really struggling with clearing this out, you are going to notice histamine symptoms. You're going to notice period flu and achiness and headaches and migraines and irritability, night sweats, hot flashes. All of those can come around ovulation because of what is happening with your hormones here. So around this time, exercise-wise, I want you to do whatever you can. If you still feel in that good flow of I can do a hard workout, I can do a HIIT, I can recover and feel good, great. Continue on with that momentum because it might come down a little bit when we hit luteal phase. If you're in a good flow, if you're in a good momentum of working out, keep that up. And if you're not, if you're like, oh, I'm kind of feeling not great, do what you can do, right? You don't have to focus on, oh, I have to do my strength training today because that's the day. If you don't feel good enough to do it, do some level of movement, right? Get in your walk, get in your yoga, do your lighter activities. And during this time, if you notice those PMS symptoms because of the peak and the drop in that estrogen, I want you to focus on as much fiber as you can. Again, this is something that we're going to focus on every single day. Don't forget that. We're always eating fiber. We're always eating protein. But when we are getting those ovulation symptoms, the pain and the PMS and whatever you might be dealing with, your body is struggling. We need to support that estrogen metabolism. Lots of fiber, lots of cruciferous veggies are also going to specifically support estrogen metabolism in your liver because cruciferous veggies break down into indole-3 carbonyl, I3C, which then go and turn into DIM, which I'm sure you've heard of, which is specific to estrogen metabolism. Cruciferous veggies are any of those farty smelling vegetables like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, kale, cauliflower, all of that fun stuff I want you to focus on during this time. And then if you are doing seed cycling, we're going to switch. You've ovulated, we're going to switch over into our luteal phase seeds, which are going to be sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. Now we're in our luteal phase. This is our last phase. And this is the phase nobody loves. We've all got a love-hate relationship with luteal phase, especially if you struggle with low progesterone or really high estrogen or a little bit of both. If you have PMS symptoms, irritability, mood swings, you have food cravings, you have crashes in your energy, you're not sleeping well, All of those are telling me progesterone's low. We got to work on that. In this phase, your estrogen does come back a little bit. It's not that we don't have any estrogen at all. It's just that your dominant hormone in this phase is going to be your progesterone. So progesterone, if it's on the low side, you're going to notice mood swings. You're going to notice feeling sluggish and tired. And progesterone is a calming hormone. That's not to mean it's going to make you tired. If you have low progesterone, you're going to feel more tired in this phase versus when you have adequate levels of progesterone. A lot of people seem to think that, oh, progesterone is a calming hormone. Adding progesterone is going to make me more tired. Not the case. Actually, if your progesterone levels are adequate, you're not going to feel like you do in your follicular phase. You're not going to be like, I can move a mountain. But you won't feel that sluggish, tired, just I'm dragging, I want to lay on the couch feeling when your progesterone levels are at a healthy level. Remember how we talked about in our follicular phase, you can handle eating a little bit more carbs because estrogen is the dominant hormone and progesterone is lower. Now we're in our luteal phase. You're going to be craving sugar. You're going to be craving carbs. You're going to be craving the quick fix to get that blood sugar up because your blood sugar is not as stable in your luteal phase because of progesterone. Progesterone just makes you a little bit less sensitive to insulin. So we're going to focus on getting protein with our meals. We're going to focus on getting fiber with our meals. We're going to focus on regulating that blood sugar so that you feel energetic, you don't feel sluggish, you're not feeling tired, you're not feeling grumpy and hangry and hating everyone around you because we are stabilizing that blood sugar even though progesterone is trying to sabotage us in that regard. Focus on the 30 grams. Get your Greek yogurt in. Add those berries to it. Get your collagen and put it in whatever you're eating if that is helping to increase whatever protein you're getting. Okay, I really want you to keep that blood sugar as stable as possible. I've worked with so many people where this is all we changed. This is all we changed in their luteal phase of eat more protein, get more fiber, eat 3 meals, be consistent with those. Like all we did is focus on blood sugar. Their PMS symptoms went away. I had one girl in particular who was like, I haven't even changed anything other than how I'm eating. And I don't feel irritable. I don't feel like I have to work from home in my luteal phase days because I want to be around other people. I don't feel like everyone is annoying me anymore. All from changing protein and fiber and 3 meals a day during our luteal phase. So this one I will absolutely say makes a huge difference. If you struggle with mood symptoms in your luteal phase, please make this change. You're going to notice such a big difference within one cycle. One cycle, that's really all it takes. And then if you are doing seed cycling, you're still going to continue your luteal phase seeds, which are going to be sunflower and sesame seeds. These are the 4 phases that are typically found with cycle syncing. So we've got our menstrual phase. This is when all of our hormones are at their lowest. We've got our follicular phase. This is when estrogen is at its highest. We feel great. We have lots of energy. We can handle more carbs. Then we ovulate. We have our ovulatory phase. This is when everything starts to drop. And then we've got our luteal phase where progesterone is a dominant hormone and estrogen should be a little bit lower. And this is where a lot of us have problems because progesterone's low or we're just not managing our blood sugar as well as we'd like it to, as well as we would hope to. So those are the 4 stages of your cycle that I want you to focus on and just be aware of. You don't have to make huge changes. You don't have to sync anything with your cycle if you don't want to. But if you're aware of what is actually happening with your hormones during this time, you can be more cognizant. You can be more self-aware of, hey, maybe I should be focusing a little bit more on my protein. Maybe I should be focusing a little bit more on my bedtime to help out my progesterone a bit. Maybe I should be focusing on adding a little bit more water during this time. Whatever it might be that you are struggling with, just know where you're at in your cycles so that you can be a little bit more aware of what your body is needing during this time. I will meet you here again next week for more period health information. Let me know what your thoughts are on cycle syncing and if you've tried it in the comments below.